Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Star Wars Expanded Universe, narrated by Disney, Arkham Lucasfilm, whichever way you slice it, Legends. Today, I just have a couple things for you. Nothing super crazy, but very, very fun. Um, Now, this first thing I'm going to talk about. The canonicity is iffy because the official thing was that it was a non-canon what-if story within Star Wars Visionaries, which was just a collection of a bunch of different comics, some being canon, some not, some being abstract and weird. Like, there's one that I'm almost certain is like the creation of the Star Wars universe. There's no words or anything in that Star Wars Visionaries comic collection. It's just a bunch of really bizarre, ununderstandable images of things with like these two figures, which makes me think that it's some sort of creation story to the universe, which is a fascinating thing of itself. But again, the entire Star Wars Visionaries collection was kind of this iffy canonicity status. I think it was more of an S tier status. The different rankings within the old Star Wars continuity was like an S ranking. Now they made a story where Darth Maul, after the events of Episode 1, found Obi-Wan Kenobi on Tatooine, fought him and died. But of course, that was more of a what-if story. Then, come 2008, the Filoni Clone Wars show by Dave Filoni goes on for a little bit, and then they bring Maul back. Now, Filoni had on occasion, we have interviews, it's not up for debate. I mean, you can debate otherwise in different stances, but as for videos, maybe he just had to slip up. But he has, and even there was a lady next to him who corrected him, where he's like, "Yo, yeah, I had this brilliant idea to bring, Maul back to life." And then this lady next to him was like, "No, you didn't. We got that from the comics." He's like, "No, that was my idea." He's like, "No, we got that from the comic, dude. Do you want me to show you the comic?" And he's like, "Well, anyway, we reorchestrated it for our show." Anyway, but so they brought him back, and then of course the Disney buyout happened. We have Star Wars Rebels, which is an entirely Disney product. It does not fit into the EU. I know some people like to try to mix and mash timelines. I mean, I can understand liking both timelines, but I can't fathom trying to mix and match all that stuff because there'd be so many contradictions and stuff. It gets so messy. So I'd rather just keep them separate and either enjoy both, don't like both, whatever. But Star Wars Rebels is not a part of the Legends continuity. But in Star Wars Rebels, Maul does return and Maul does die on Tatooine. And before people think that I'm just a hater who hates on Dave Filoni and Disney Star Wars, I will give you this. I thought the way that Darth Maul died in canon was expertly well done. I thought it was perhaps even better than the story I'm about to talk about. But that's all leading up to. However, if you were following the Legends continuity and you wanted the kind of, I guess, it was never canon to Legends, but because of Dave Filoni and his entire show, you could actually reorchestrate most of this comic back into the continuity as the Legends version of the Rebel episode. That comic short being Old Wounds. Now, there's only some things you would kind of have to ignore because, again, this was made before Dave Filoni's show. So the idea was that he somehow had survived Episode 1 and had been tracking Obi-Wan Kenobi ever since he's been able to actually move around. So since he got the robot legs, he'd followed him to Camino because, Obi-Wan was scoping out the clones, but he showed up right after Jango Fett and Obi-Wan Kenobi had left. He showed up again after Geonosis, but everybody had already moved out. He showed up, after Mustafar, but Obi-Wan Kenobi had already left, and so Anakin becoming Darth Vader. Actually, no, I think he claims that he saw a burnt body there before Palpatine showed up, and he thought it was him. But I thought it was Obi-Wan, but it wasn't. and then he finally found him on Tatooine. So all of that you would kind of have to ignore. You'd have to blatantly block that out. Now, that being said, if you ignore that little thing, I think relatively you can make it fit with the Filoni Clone Wars TV show. Now, the only other thing is it goes back to the claw legs that he has the first time we really see it. Well, I mean, in the Filoni Clone Wars episodes, we have the spider legs, and then we have the claw legs, and then we have the normal legs that the Mandalorians give him. Now he has the claw legs here, the second iteration, which is the inspiration that Filoni got for those legs. But that's more of an aesthetic thing, really. I mean, you can kind of just ignore that. I mean, I did. But basically, he goes to Tatooine. He finds out there's a Jedi here, a kid Jedi, or a kid with the Force. And he knows that that's why Obi-Wan's there. And so he's trying to cause trouble by coming over there to provoke Obi-Wan. And Uncle Owen is cool as frick in here because he sees some dude charging toward his house, and he's like, I don't care who you are, no one's hurting my wife or my frickin', basically my kid. And he gets a shotgun, or like a sci-fi shotgun, and starts trying to shoot the crap out of Maul. Of course, Maul is a Force user, so it's not going to work to the best advantage, but it's still pretty cool. I mean, I can't lie and say it's not cool. And then, of course, there was one little weird moment that I guess Obi-Wan was hiding in the dirt for some reason. But at this point, what I also like about it is that this is like the weird merger, where he's been on Tatooine long enough where he's starting to get the gray hair and stuff, but he has not fully turned into Alec Guinness. He's like in this in-between state where he still kind of looks like Ewan McGregor, but he also does look like Alec McGuinness, and I loved how they did that with the art. But anyway, they have an epic fight. However, Maul actually does trump Obi-Wan for a second, and you think, oh, Obi-Wan might get impaled. Of course, it can happen in episode 4. But then, freaking Uncle Owen comes out of nowhere and blows his brains out. Just as they're in the middle of fighting, puts the shotgun near his head and just goes bam, gone. And he also just tells Obi-Wan to piss off. I don't want you around here anymore. Ever. I already told you this, but I really don't want you over here again. So he goes and buries Maul's body, and that's kind of just the end of the story. Again, isn't much, no. And do I think it was probably... I think the way that Maul died in Disney canon was more elegant, like a classical play, a classical musical, like Mozart or something. And the way that Maul died in this comic was more like heavy metal, and I loved it. I love both for different reasons. And I will admit that I've seen the clips a lot of Maul dying in Rebels, a lot. I don't really want to go and rewatch the show ever because I found the show overall a net negative, but I did find snippets of gold within all of it. I will say that. Minus everything with Thrawn, it just pissed me off. Anyway, that's that comic. You can take it or leave it. It was more of S tier anyway, so you could either accept it as canon or not accept it. That is up to you, but that is chronologically what I put next. After that, I should also say, there's no story here. However, in the Tales of the Bounty Hunters novel, which is a collection of short stories, we have the story Last Man Standing, which is one of the origin stories for Boba Fett. This was, of course, destroyed by Episode 2 with the revelation that Boba Fett was a clone. However, it was then retconned to make it work again with what we talked about ages ago at this point, Jango Fett Open Seasons, where we learned about Jaster Muriel, the Mandalorian leader who took Jango Fett under his wing, basically raised him as his own, and then he would die, and we can just assume that Jango Fett told Boba Fett all about his, in quotation marks, grandfather. So, at about sometime during 16 BBY, Boba Fett meets this woman named Sintis Vale, who is the same race as Quinlan Voss. and he falls in love with her. They fall in love with each other, and he gives up bounty hunting. He gives that up, and he moves with her to conquer Dawn, where they would, of course, do the woohoos, and they would have a baby together, named Aelin Vel. Now, while he's on this planet, Conquer Dawn, he joins basically the local protection of the planet. I forget what they're called, but he joins them, and the leader of the thing he joined, rapes his wife. Now, at this point also, Boba Fett has changed his name to his, to be undercover, because he's already been a bounty hunter for a couple of years, and he's already become pretty famous, and he doesn't want a death watch, death hit on his family, so he goes under the name Jaster Muriel, after his, grandfather. So it fixes the issues. Jango Fett Open Seasons basically fixes the issues with that story and what we've seen in episode 2. It makes it all fit into one cohesive timeline. But anyway, so Boba Fett will have none of that. He kills the guy, and he's exiled from the planet. His wife, his child stay, but he must leave, and he goes back to what he does best, which is bounty hunting. We move forward to, I want to say, 13-ish BBY, 14 to 13, 12 at the latest, BBY. And we first have the flashback, the very first scene, basically, the opening level to the Force Unleashed video game, where Vader goes to Kashyyyk because the Wookiees were being riled up again, rebelling, and they had to be quelled back down again. And this is where Darth Vader would find Galen Marek and train him as his apprentice to be Starkiller, which we'll talk about down the line coming up. But as of here, I just want to mention he got picked up around this time. Also around this time, we have Star Wars Tales number 7, Outbid, but never outgunned. Boba Fett is searching for this hollow of something. We don't know what, but this bad guy, bad guy in comparison to Boba Fett, is trying to basically blackmail Boba Fett with this. Kill people I want you to kill, and I won't send this to the public. Eventually, Boba Fett would be reunited with Sintis Vel, who's also looking for this hollow. And they would both take down the guy that was trying to blackmail them. And then, as she's hurting and wounded, but with the prized possession back within her grasp, he leaves her in the dust. What is that prized possession? It is a picture of Boba Fett, her, and their newborn daughter that she wanted to keep. Pretty decent little short story. One of the better ones of Tales. I think pretty much the entire Tales issue number 7, which basically only focused on Boba Fett stories, didn't really fail. I don't think anybody really has messed up Boba Fett so far. So for Star Wars Tales, it was pretty good, and I was pleasantly surprised. Lastly, we have, taking place in 11 BBY to possibly 10, early 10 BBY, which, 10 years before episode 4, we have Boba Fett, Blood Ties, and Boba Fett, Blood Ties, Boba Fett is dead. This was so good. I love the art that they use in this series. They use this also in a Purge comic where Vader was searching for a Jedi, but I love this dirty painting style art. I don't know. I love that look. So that's already an A+ from me. The Boba Fett Blood Ties, the first portion, basically gives us flashbacks to Jango Fett before the events of Attack of the Clones. He went on a mission for Darth Tyrannus, and he finds a clone who defected before the events of episode 2. And he wanted to have a family, and he did. He had a 1-year-old kid, a newborn. Jango Fett kills him, but does not kill the kid. And in fact, every year pays money to the kid. giving him some of his earnings. And then the main story is Boba Fett finding out about this Connor Freeman who is being attacked by all these bounty hunters. The Bounty Hunters Guild is here because we have the code and everything, and that's great fun. We see Bosk for a split second. That's also fun. And Boba Fett, what I appreciate about this, I don't, again, want to harp on Disney canon. We do have the book of Boba Fett where, as far as I'm understanding from what people have told me, he just becomes a good guy. I'm gonna be the best person I can be as leader of a crime syndicate. But here, it's a bit more complicated. Boba Fett does something altruistic, but it is not because he's necessarily a good guy. He's not a bad guy. Boba Fett has never been a bad guy. He has a code that he lives by, but he has no qualms killing people who are innocent. It's just a matter of who's paying him and what's going on with him personally. For this, Connor Freeman is a connection to his father. Jango is everything to Boba. And all that Boba knows is that for all the years that he was alive, since Jango found out about the baby, he helped provide for that kid. And with that, Jango probably wouldn't want this kid dead. Jango wouldn't want this guy dead, Connor Freeman. So, he helps him, saves him. Now, in Boba Fett is dead, Boba Fett has died. The bounty hunters finally got him. But did they? Then we think we follow Connor Freeman getting revenge for Boba Fett. But later on, we realize that Boba Fett, of course, never died. He put his outfit, his whole Mandalorian outfit, on some dead guy and allowed the bounty hunters to think that they had successfully killed him. And then he went under the alias of Connor Freeman, the guy that he'd saved, in the previous one. And they go on an adventure. He's trying to figure out because basically these bounty hunters not only want to kill Boba Fett, the person that hired him, the man who hired these bounty hunters, knows about Sintis Vale and his daughter. So he wants that stopped. So he's trying to figure all that out. Connor Freeman saved, because everybody thinks that Connor Freeman's doing all this, they blow up his bar, and Boba Fett saves him, but then he sends him to Concord Dawn to watch over his wife and his kid. Of course, his wife can take care of herself just fine, as she too was a bounty hunter for a time. But there's some really cool moments in there. I really like Aelin here. I think she's a really fun little girl. And then it kind of reaffirms, without saying it, what happened to Sintis. Because the man who's trying to get rid of Boba Fett's entire legacy is the father of the guy that raped Sintis. But he refuses to accept that fact about his son. And he wants revenge because he sees his son as this innocent person that just got slaughtered by Boba Fett, which of course is not the case. There was, a reason for that happening. And just overall, I thought that these issues with Boba Fett were so much fun. They were so good. And this was like in 2013. This is right before the Disney buyout. But they came out swinging with this, and it was glorious. I absolutely love these two comics. And I do think they're worth your time if you can check them out. This is one of the best Boba Fett stories. It's so much fun. I do highly, highly, highly recommend these comics. But that's pretty much it, guys. Somehow I went 20 minutes with this. Now, timeline wise, for us, I'm going to be taking a small break to read some Dune prequels and some Halo. Now, when this video comes out, I don't know if that will be the case. I might put those Dune reviews out before we get to this, because I make all my videos ahead of time. I might not. We'll see. But that's what I'm going to be doing. But then when I come back to the Star Wars Expanded Universe in chronological order, as best I know how, we shall continue in 10 BBY with Han Solo Paradise Snare by A.C. Crispin. One of my favorite EU books ever. Well, the entire trilogy by A.C. Crispin. But that's what we have to look forward to coming next. So I hope you all join me for that. Until next time, guys, may the Force be with you.